There we go. So if you have your guide sheet from last time that we were making, we're going to add to that and talk about structure today. And then I also want to talk a little bit about being ready for the test, because I know that for some of you, it will be the first test that you take. So we were looking at the list a little bit earlier. Yeah, so if you have physics C, or US government and politics, or calculus, or geography, I don't know, do we give the geography test? Then you will take those tests before our test, but our test might be the first test that you take. So, right, but I don't know if we offer it, is what I was saying. Human geography?
No, but they still should have gotten it.
I understand that you're talking about something I'm not talking about. So the English Lit might be the first one. And so I want to make sure that everybody's, as comfortable as possible with getting into the test, how to do it, because nobody's going to be there to help you at that time. So it's better to like kind of look things over up front. I'm preparing a little, here's the little thing I've been working on. Like a little resource list. Can y'all see that? You can see my screen? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Like a little resource list, a little one slide where you can click on, what if this happens? How do I find out about this? How do I find out about that? Because I don't know, for me, Miss Sid and the College Board people have been sending me all kinds of stuff, and it's just hard for me to keep track of all of it. So I'm working on this resource list for you so that you can say, okay, well, how do I get my testing ticket? And you can just click and it will take you to the answer to that question. I want to make a one-page thing for you. So I'm adding to that. If there's anything that you want to know about, send it in the chat and I'll include it on the list. So I have things like, where do I get my testing ticket? What is the date and time for my test? How do I disable Grammarly? What can I use or not use during the test? How much time will I have? What will the test be like? Can I practice what the test will be like? Is there a checklist? And then on test day, how do I log in? What if my tech goes down? How do I upload my essay? So if you can think of something else that it would be good to know, I can put it on this list with a link so that everybody has that. And then you could kind of like look that over before the test or have it open just in case you need to refer to it that day or something like that. But our test starts at 1, but you need to log in at 12:30 on Wednesday next week. All right, so last time we were going through all these slides and we were, this is just review. We were going through how to make a little guide sheet for ourselves to use with little spaces so that you can kind of fill it in. I want to be very careful when I say you do not have to use this at all. If you get started on the test and you can just go with it, then just go with it. This is here to help you if you, there's the chat, if you get like nervous or you're looking at the prompt and it's not making sense, what do I do? This is kind of like a little security blanket for you if that happens. But I don't want you to feel like you have to sit there and fill this out when you're testing if you don't need to. All right, does that make sense? Hopefully. I'm trying to see if something's here. All right, let me make this smaller. Sorry, I'll maneuver all of your faces up there so I can see you. Okay, so we went through this one last time and we went all the way through reading the passage that gave some examples. If this is all new to you, then you can go to the other video that I made, writing a thesis, leaving a spot for the thesis, and so on. So where we left off last time was writing a thesis. And I gave you these notes about if you need help writing a thesis, this is what you can do. If you already know what to do, then you don't have to refer to this, but I think it's kind of good to have nearby. So let's talk about structure, all right? I want you to go to where you left off on your little guide sheet and drop down after the next line and just make a few notes about intro, body, and conclusion. Just little reminders in case, like, you could get nervous at the time and need a little boost. So write intro there. Your intro should be short. We don't have time in the 45 minute time frame. They're going to give you 50 minutes total. So that's like 45 minutes to write and 5 minutes to upload. Some people are only taking 20 minutes to write their essays on the practice ones. And I think that those are the people who are making lower scores than they could be making if they used most of their time. But then there's some people who run out of time and they're not quite finishing the end. So to save yourself a few minutes, you don't have to make a big fancy intro. You can only get 1 point in the introduction and it's for your thesis. It's binary. It's either a 0 or it's a 1. So if you have a thesis, that can be your whole intro. Yes, Mario.
Yes. So for the thesis, you know how there's like I don't know if you've noticed, but there's a pattern with my essays.
Yeah.
Well, I always kind of have like a universal, I don't know, just like a thing before I do the introduction kind of formula that you gave us.
Mm-hmm.
Is that good? Like, is that sufficient?
Do that. You can do that. It's up to you. If you feel like you have enough time to do the whole essay and do that, then go ahead. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying that for people who run out of time, it might be better. You might just consider doing the thesis statement only, because then the 3 or 4 minutes that you might have used making an extra introduction part could be used to finish off the essay and make it complete.
Yes, ma'am.
So, I mean, you're going to have to judge that for yourself. There are a lot of people who the time frame is comfortable for them. So go ahead and build on the intro or add an extra example or something in your body. What I worry about are the people who finish their essay in 20 minutes and got a 2. You know, when you could have spent that extra 20 minutes adding another body paragraph or extending the quotation explanation or something like that. So, but the place to invest most of your time is in the body. So we're going to talk about that in a second. So I think on the test, you don't have to worry about a fancy intro unless you want to. So I'm just saying for time's sake, I'd rather have 2 minutes extra than, you know, be short 2 minutes. Mm-hmm. Another thing that you can put down on your guide sheet is that there will not be a title or author given on this year's test. So you're not going to have to write in this excerpt from whatever novel by whatever author, because they're not going to give that to you. You're not going to know where it came from. So you can just dive right into in the passage. Oop. You're not going to know who wrote it. You're not going to know where it's from. So you don't have to worry about adding that to your intro in any way. It's just not going to exist. They're also not going to give you any devices. So they're not going to say, use devices such as imagery, whatever, 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 because they're not going to suggest any to you. You're going to have to determine which devices are present in the passage. Make sure that the thesis has a real answer to the topic. And I have an example on this because I'm noticing in the practice essays that some people are stuck on really empty thesis statements. Not everybody, but enough that I want to mention it today. So I put an example on here. Before you get started on your essay, that thesis needs to be a real answer. Some people are giving superficial answers like this example that I have here. Here's a thesis with no real answer. It looks like it has an answer, but really it's just mimicking the prompt. The author uses techniques, which ones doesn't say, to portray the complex experience of the 2 sisters in their society and family. Well, what is the experience? It doesn't say. So the problem with this thesis is that it might get a point. Really, it's just repeating the prompt, but so it probably shouldn't get a point. But it doesn't help you write the paper, because then the rest of the paper is just going to be general about the experience and not name it. So a better version of that down here to check when you're writing your intro is to make sure that there is some techniques mentioned in the thesis. You can go back and put that in after you figure it out if you want. And that you've named the experience or the relationship or, you know, the characterization element. So the red stuff here is what makes it a better thesis, because it's telling us the decisions that you've made about the passage. I decided that imagery and selection of detail are the most important to show the experiences of these 2 people. And the experiences, I'm not just going to say experiences, I'm going to say what kind of experiences they are. And in this case, in that passage, I know you haven't read that passage, but the 2 sisters have opposite ways of making themselves known in their family and in their society. So they're differing or opposite experiences. So if you do this, you're going to end up with an essay that's not going to be very deep or very detailed. But this helps us understand what you're deciding to say and what you're noticing about the passage. So that's why I put on the slideshow, oops, on this slide, make sure the thesis has a real answer. And you've got a spot from our note taking last time where you can put in your practice your thesis if you want to write it out before you type it. Okay, questions on the intro? Anybody? Okay, none of this stuff is new, but it's good to jot down a few things. Okay, you can go make a line there and we'll make some notes about body paragraphs. Make sure that you have separate paragraphs. It helps your overall readability of your essay if you separate the intro, each body paragraph is separated, and then the conclusion is separated. It's kind of like making it, you know, if I'm going to make a path through the woods, I can remove all the tree branches and put in some stones, or I can just say, walk through the woods. So if you want to make it easy for somebody to read your essay and understand your points, then you want to break your paragraphs and you want to make sure that you have separate paragraphs. So just keep in mind that you should have not one giant body paragraph, because what happens is people just throw a bunch of stuff in there and it all mixes up. So it's better to have separate body paragraphs. We've practiced this. Each paragraph will be for proving a different part of the thesis. So if you need to prove one statement that you made about a character, then put all of that in about that one statement in that body paragraph, and then move on to another body paragraph to maybe point out another characteristic. Or in the case of the example that we've been looking at, one sister could be in one paragraph and another sister could be in the other paragraph. Think about what would logically break up the body paragraphs. And then the third thing to remember about body paragraphs is to end each one by explaining how it connects back to your thesis. So some people leave off with a quotation from the passage, or they don't ever connect what they said in the body paragraph to what they said in the thesis. So I think the better essays will take the last sentence of a body paragraph and kind of refer back to the thesis to make sure that the person who's reading it knows, hey, I'm on topic. I'm writing about what I said I was going to write about in my thesis. Some people are getting notes on their practice essays if they need help doing that. Other people do it well, and I usually highlight it and I'll put, you know, like great or good job referring back to the thesis to reinforce that. So that's where the feedback on the practice essays really comes into play, is what are the things that you're doing well and what are the things that you could work on. All right, any questions on the body paragraphs? If you're ever writing a body paragraph and you wonder, should I do this or should I not do that? Anybody? Okay.
Yes, because you know how in each body paragraph you kind of have a claim of itself. Mm-hmm. So when you connect the point at the end of the body paragraph, do you try to, in that one sentence, you try to fit it to where you connect it back to the claim in the body paragraph and the claim in the thesis as well, right?
Right, because in the body paragraph, you're proving one part of the thesis. So just explain how that example, that quote, that commentary that you're making helps you prove what you said in the thesis. Okay. They call that, you know, like, it's a structural thing to make sure that everything in your paper refers back to the thesis. There's some people who just start writing about the passage and pretty soon they're writing about things that they never even wrote in their thesis. And that's just lack of essay control. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's a good question. The last thing I put is about how many body paragraphs. So you need to put as many as you need to prove your thesis. So when you look at your thesis, you have to break it up in a logical way. And so then you're just going to take the parts that you need to and say, okay, well, I can organize by the two devices that I said that the author uses, or I could talk about the beginning, the middle, and the end of the passage. Or I could talk about the sister and then the other sister. It just depends on what it is that they give you. I don't know what the passage is going to be. But just, you know, think logically about systematically moving through your thesis statement and making sure that you prove all the things that are listed there. You're done writing body paragraphs when you're done proving your thesis, if that makes sense. All right, I'm ready to move to the conclusion unless there are any questions. Okay, so the tip that I have for you about the conclusion is it can be short. I didn't put that on there, but it can be short. But the key is to connect the main ideas in the essay to real life, like a lesson that we can all learn about whatever the passage is about, if it's about grief or family or society, what have you. You don't have to do a super thorough job of that. You don't have to give examples. You can just say, we all know that we need to, whatever. I'll give you an example. I know you're copying that down, so I'll give you an example in a second. Take a minute.
Whatever the passage is.
Okay, so here's an example that I put just to show you the part. It doesn't have to be in depth, but what it does is it shows that you're thinking about this passage as more than just an isolated thing, that literature can relate to life, which we all know. So here's an example. I highlighted in yellow the stuff that is like the reference to life. And then this will be mostly the passage. So it says, this would be like a good concluding paragraph. We all have to find ways to examine and craft who we are within our family and in the world at large. Do you see how that's true about everybody? We all have to identify who we are, who we're going to be, etc. Then I'm going to delve into the passage. Both Irene and Penelope strive to create their identity within their family structure and society, but they attempt to achieve this in different ways. You don't have to write this down. This is just an example of what we were talking about. Irene expresses her need for freedom, and Penelope is more materialistic. So this part right here is kind of like a little summary of the thesis in the paper. But this part is new, the yellow part, because I'm trying to say, you know what happens in that passage is meaningful beyond just the passage. It affects all of us, and it's something that we all have to do in some way or another. Do you have to do that? No, you could start your concluding, if you're down to 3 minutes, you know, and you can't think of something that goes with, you know, lifetime experiences, then you can just start with both Irene and Penelope strive just to finish off the essay. So it's going to be important that you watch time. They're going to have a timer at the bottom, and it will turn red when you have 5 minutes left. The reason that they do that is because they want to give you 5 minutes to upload. You know, the timer will say 50 minutes at the beginning, and that's the entire time that you have to read it, write the essay, and upload it. So when that timer turns red at 45 minutes, then you need to start thinking about, how am I going to turn this in? We can talk about that if you want, how you're going to turn it in if we're done talking about conclusions. Are there any other questions about conclusions?
Ma'am.
I mean, I want to point out that if you were writing an essay for a college class and you had all semester to work on it, you would not write like this. This is a situation where you're given just a short period of time to show what you can do. Yes, Mario.
Yes. So we connect the main ideas in the essay to real life. And after that, is it necessary to like have an extra sentence in there just confirming our thesis, or no, is that just
if you have time,
kind of redundant?
If you have time, you should do that, because it's going to bring your paper to a close.
Okay.
But it's not, you don't get any points for the conclusion.
Oh.
Whereas you get a point for the thesis and you get 4 points for the body.
Mm-hmm.
There's no point for the conclusion. What the conclusion does is it caps off your essay. And so when it comes to the sophistication point, or when it comes to, just having a complete thought, that's where they're looking at the conclusion. So if you only have a few minutes left, I say just summarize what you said, right? Like it's better to have something than no conclusion at all. But even if you don't have a conclusion, they can't take points away from you.
Yes, ma'am.
Right. So, I mean, your points are made in the thesis and the body. And then the sophistication point is all about how you write it and, you know, your vocabulary and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. Okay.
And to turn it in, we just take a picture because Miss Ellis went over it yesterday.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Well, yeah. So there's a couple of different ways that you can turn in your let me go to it here.
Oh no, this is different since we're already doing it online. Isn't there like a submit button?
Yeah. So what you're going to see, I put a link on that. So those of you who joined us after I was talking about this earlier, I'm working right now on a little list of things that you can just click on and get the answers to all these questions. So everything's all in one place. One of them here is how do I upload my essay? And they're going to, when you get into the test, they're going to have a submit button. Mr. Ramos and I went through and did the simulation the other day. There's a demo that you can do too. It'll be right here on the link. I'll send this out later today. Can I practice what the test will be like? This one right here. You can go and you can do like a simulation ahead of time so that you don't get in there and like not know what's happening. So Mr. Ramos and I did the simulation the other day. Now you can, it depends on kind of like what device you're using. If you're using your phone to take the test, which you can, and you're gonna like sort of text in your entire response, you can write it right in the field that they have there. That's it. Or you can open a Google document or a Word doc, type it the way you want it, copy, and then paste it into that form field. You can take a picture and upload it, but that is a little tricky because you have to upload it in the page order that is correct. You can't just upload them if you have multiple pictures and it's page 2 and then page 4 and then page 1 and then, you know, because then whoever's reading it, it's going to be all out of whack. So there, if you click on the, well, I'll just show you on the screen because it's going to be right here on this link. How do I upload my essay? I'll just go to that website real quick right here. You can attach a text file. You can attach photos. You can copy and paste. I feel like that's what most people are going to do. I feel like most people are going to open a Google Doc, type it the way they want it, and you could make it so that you have the passage on one side and then, you know, like your document on the other side, type it, and you could refer to the passage that way. And then when you're done, when you're ready, just copy paste it into the testing form. Well, the audio file isn't going to apply. That's for music theory. And also for, I think, the languages. They have to record something. So I would say most people are probably going to do the copy paste option. And so then it will talk about how you do that, how they want your API ID and your initials at the top of the page. But the testing thing kind of walks you through that. But what I want to avoid is with the timer counting down, I don't want you to think that you have 50 minutes to write and then time to upload. When that timer's out, the test is over. And if you haven't uploaded anything, then it's not going to let you upload anything after that point. That's why it turns red for the last 5 minutes to kind of be like, you know, annoying down there at the bottom so that you know that you have to do the upload. Yeah. I think the best way to go for our test, I know on some tests like chemistry and some other ones, you have to diagram stuff and then you have to take a picture and you have to do it that way. But for ours, it's just going to be a text file. So you can just type it out and copy paste it. I mean, if you do it in Google too, I haven't heard anything about this, and we've been going to online seminars and stuff with College Board. And if you do it on Google, I can probably look at it after the test is over, and once 2 days later I'm able to see the prompt, I could probably guess at what your score is going to be. And I am scoring the AP this summer, and we're all going to have the same question pretty much. So, you know, I'm going to get trained on that first week in June. So by then I could probably for sure tell you what. Well,
so what if you give
for
us
sure,
a grade?
for sure. I'm not going to get your essays. They set it up so that the teacher will never, if you have kids that took the AP exam, that you won't be grading theirs. So, yeah. But I mean, I could, if you do it in Google and you want me to, I know some people probably don't, but some people might want me to speculate about what I think the score will be.
Yes.
Now, what I
And
won't
the
be able
grades,
to do, I'll be able to tell you the essay score, but I won't be able to tell you whether that's a 5, 4, 3, 2, or 1 on the test as a whole. The essay is scored 0 through 6, but the test is 1 through 5. Most people need a 3 on the AP exam to pass. So what they don't know right now, and they won't know until they get all of the tests in, is, okay, if the essay is a 3, is that passing or not? 3 points out of 10. So that stuff they'll do after they get all of the results in, and all the muckety mucks over there at College Board look and say, oh, okay, here's one of the best papers that we could possibly conceive. This is going to be a 6. And then they'll decide, because 2 people are going to be reading your essay. Usually it's 1 person. This year it's going to be 2 people will be reading every essay. So what if one person gives it a 6 and another person gives it a 5? Well, is that going to be a 5 overall for the test score, or is that going to be a 4? So they'll figure all that out after the fact. But, if you have it in Google and you want me to look it over, I can speculate about what I think your score might be. I mean, I'm doing it for the last 4 weeks on your practice essays. So, yeah. What are some other things? I don't know. I don't have the chat open here. What are some other things that you that you might want to know about before the test? You can either put it in the chat or you can yell it out if you want to. These are the things I have so far. Where do I get my testing ticket? Who knows the answer to that without clicking on it? Mario?
an email they sent.
Yeah. What if you're not getting emails from College Board?
Then we go to our Google Classroom link that you sent not too long ago. Well, that's what I would do.
myap.com, yeah. You're going to go to myap.com. So if for some reason, you should get your ticket Monday for our test. 2 days ahead of time, you'll get your ticket. You'll also get a list of all the, you should have got a confirmation already. If you don't know what I'm talking about at all, then you should be checking your email. Your email should have a confirmation of all the tests that you're signed up to take. So then 2 days before each one of those tests, for us it will be Monday, they're going to deliver your ticket. And it looks like this. It's going to look like this. This is a biology one, so obviously it won't say biology. But this is what it will look like in your email. And then there's a link right there. And it's only for you, and it can only be used once. So it has the time, it has your AP ID on it. So then it says, go to your exam 30 minutes beforehand. You click and it will take you to your personalized screen right then and there. So if it's not in your email, then you can go and log into the College Board website and you should be able to get your tickets there too. That makes sense. All right, dates and times for the test. Everybody knows when they're testing, dates and times are, right? No? Well, I put the schedule on here. I put the schedule on here. So if you look on here, you can see I even blotted out. Oh, wait, it's not. I have to make it a little bit smaller. The times are at the top here. Make it smaller. Uh-oh. Things in the way. Well, anyway, I put in at the top, I put in the Central Time. Some people aren't aware that we're in Central Time. Can you see that I blocked it all out so that you would know exactly which one it is that you have to do, what time it's going to be? But remember, that's test time. That's not login time. Login time is 30 minutes before. Right? You do have to disable Grammarly. It's not because they don't want you to use Grammarly. You can use like whatever's in Google Drive or Google Docs. You can use spell check. You can use all that stuff, capitalization, grammar check, all that. What you can't do is have Grammarly running because the app interferes with the AP test running properly. So you're going to have to disable it. If you don't know how to do that, I have a link here. What can I use or not use during the test? There's a link there too. You get to use this guide sheet that we just made. Leave it by your side to help you in case you get, you know, you have a question. Because what you can't do is you cannot call me. You don't get to have a phone a friend, right? You can't call up your friend and say, what did you put for your intro?
Well, technically we can. If we have your number, we can FaceTime.
No, you're not allowed to. It says specifically that you're not allowed to.
It's just our academic integrity. But let's say that we didn't have it. Let's say that we didn't have academic integrity. Then technically,
I will have academic integrity for you.
Awesome. But Mr. Ramos, that's some look, because that's gonna affect us all regardless. What if there's a teacher out there from who knows where that's FaceTiming like all her students or all his students, and they get all these awesome grades, and those are the grades that they compare us against?
Well, I'm going to tell you one thing, and one thing that they do is they compare all of the entries. So in the computer, using a logarithm, they're going to like compare all of the essays. So I don't know how a teacher, even if that could happen, I don't know how a teacher could help 100 different students write 100 different essays. They would all be the same, right?
Mm.
So I think the other thing that I think is going to happen is there's some things that they've been alluding to, but they won't tell us details on. Like you're probably going to have to write a sample paragraph before the test starts.
What?
Yeah. So they can see what your writing style is, how fast you keystroke. They're going to be able to probably track your keystrokes. So if you can't copy paste something in, they talked about all kinds of security measures. Matter of fact, I think I mentioned this last time in one of the conference calls, they mentioned that they had already caught some cheaters and the test hasn't even happened.
What?
Yeah. I think it was for the physics test.
Dang, and their colleges are being contacted, I bet.
Well, yeah, that's one of the things that's going to happen this year is that if your test is too similar to somebody else's and they discover that there was some sort of cheating, or if they discover that that teacher, that inscrutable teacher was helping the students, then all those colleges will be informed so they can negate your scores.
Wow.
But yeah, I'm assuming that they put some things in place because they feel pretty confident. They're not even going to do a lockdown browser.
Yeah, that's crazy.
You can go on the internet, but they strongly discourage it because it's going to take a long time to find what you need, and then you won't have time to write the essay. Okay, so then right here where it says, what will the test be like and how can I practice? There is a demo that you can do. I highly recommend it. This is a video tour, but there's also a demo so that it's kind of like a simulation of test day. I would say do that before your first AP exam. You don't want your first AP exam to go crazy bad because you didn't practice. So I would say, you know, go and do the demo. It's just going to walk you through what it will be like. The question won't be there. It will say something like, this is where the question will appear. But you can see what it's going to be like, where your buttons are for submitting and all that stuff. But I put a link to that demo so that you can do that if you want. And there's a checklist. So what else can you, there's nothing in the group chat. So is there something else that I can add to this resource list that you're wondering about? It's still in progress, so I can still add to it. No?
No, ma'am.
I think the first thing to do is to kind of like go through anything. If you look at these and you don't know the answer, then you should watch that thing, right? You should go to that link. If you already know the answer, then that's okay. What else? You have your study guide there. Can you use a dictionary? Yes, you can. I wouldn't get overly absorbed in it. I would only use the dictionary if there was a really important word in the passage that I didn't know about and it was hindering me from understanding the passage.
And okay, Mr. Ramos, just for clarification, because Mrs. Ellis, at least for the chemistry exam, if we were to open another, I know you just said open browser, but if we were to open another one for the chemistry exam, she said that that might be called for cheating. Oh. But let's say there's a word I don't know on the English exam. Can I open up a new browser and type it in and find the definition of it?
Yeah, you can. What I would do is probably set up some tabs first. I would probably go and say, okay, I need a dictionary.com tab. I need my Google Doc and already have it there with my ID number and my initials like they want it, and just be ready to go. And then all you have to do is switch over to that tab. Like, you don't want to waste time while the timer's counting down to go and open a thing and, you know, just a few seconds. But, you know, if you're prepared, then you won't be as nervous about it.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, that's what I think. Should we have like a little debriefing session a couple of days after the test? Should we have like a Zoom meeting where we talk about how it went, or no?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Maybe we'll do that as soon as I get the prompt. Because I know they're probably gonna, they always tell you on the AP exam, don't discuss the questions, all that stuff and that sort of thing. It's only one question, but. So just let me review. We've been doing 4 practices, and they're all the 4 types of questions that you might experience on the test. So each one of the 4 that we've done, they're not repetitive. They're all prose analysis, but the first one was about setting, remember?
Ode to a Texas Porch.
You could get, no, that was a poem. You're not gonna get a poem.
Mm-mm.
It's gonna be a passage from a story or a novel or something like that. But I asked you to analyze setting on essay, practice essay number 1. Practice essay number 2 was characterization. Practice essay number 3 was characterizing a relationship. And the one that we had this past Monday was characterizing an experience. I think it's gonna be one of those 4. So that's why I wanted you to practice all 4, because now you've got experience, and those on the PowerPoints where I walked you through a walkthrough of each one of those types with practice essays and sample essays and what's a good one and what's a bad one. All that stuff that was on purpose, because now I think you're ready with any of the 4 types that they might give you next week. So this week up until Tuesday, next Tuesday, is about revising. If you have a 0 for any of those, all the grades are up to date except for the one that the 4th one. I'm going to be grading those later today and tomorrow. So if you have a 0 and you just didn't do essay number 2, for example, you can go back and do it now. Practice it, turn it in on the Google Classroom assignment, and I will grade it and put your grade in the grade book. Plus you get the extra practice right before the exam. If you've done all 4 of them, but one of them was a lower grade, say you got an 80 on one of them and the others are all 90s, go back and practice on that 80 and say, what would I need to do to get that extra point? Or how could I improve, like whatever the notes I put on there, how could I improve this essay? And you can submit that and I'll regrade it and change the grade in the grade book. Because all of these things are tools to help you improve before the test next Wednesday. And I don't know if you watched the video that I put out on Tuesday for this week's stuff, but I'm not making any more assignments. This is it. Senior grades are due on Wednesday. So all the practice essays and the 100 for doing your guide sheet. Well, there's 200s. There's one for the first part of it and there's 100 for today. So if you're here in the video, then you get your 100. And if you are just watching this later, do your guide sheet, send me a picture and I'll put your 100 in. Easy, right? It's a win-win situation. You get the 100 plus you have the little guide sheet to help you. Does that make sense? Everybody's laughing. Why are y'all laughing? I don't know why you're laughing. Something must be going on. Oh, it's because Mario froze? Is that why? All right. What? Hi! How are you, Eva?
I'm doing good.
Have you been listening the whole time? Because she's been talking to somebody.
Yeah. She was fine, and I've been waiting for you to finish, so I don't want to interrupt you.
Oh, okay. That's all right. It's good to see you. She's going to do just fine, I think.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah. Well, we're just wrapping up anyway. So if there's anything else that you want me to put on this list, then just, you know, drop me a little quick message or something and I'll add it on here. But other than that, I think everybody's ready to go for Wednesday. I don't have any time set aside for any other meetings. Do y'all think we need to? Or do you feel pretty set? Nobody knows. Okay. Well, I'm trying my best from over here. So if something comes up and you're not sure about it, just send me, message me or whatever, and I will get back to you. All right, everybody should have a guide sheet, right? Everybody should have, well, I'll send this thing out later today or early tomorrow so that you can start looking through some of these items. Mr. Ramos wants to add to it, and then he wants to use it with his students too, so we might add a few more things. But then that way, anything that you're not sure about, you can check into. Sound good? Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and put everybody's name into the grade book so that those of you who were here can get your points. And if you're watching this in video later, then email me your little guide sheet and you can get your points too. All right, I will talk to you all later. Good luck on the test. I'll probably send a video message out on Monday or Tuesday next week just to encourage you all and all that good stuff, so. All right. All right, thanks guys. I'll talk to you later then. I'm gonna sign out. Hope I can get everybody's name on here who was.